Hello, good evening, everyone. It is great to see you. It is great to see a full house. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the election hustings for the Constable of St Helier. My name is Hannah Shelswell, and I'm going to be taking you through the proceedings this evening until 9 o'clock. So just before we start tonight, a few bits of housekeeping. If you could, and if you haven't done so already, take your mobile phone out of your pocket and put it on silent. We would very much appreciate that so we don't have any calls and interruptions this evening. For those of you who are standing at the back, if you do want a seat, there are a few at the front. If you'd like to come down, we've got about 3 or 4 seats down here, so you are welcome to come and grab one of those if you'd like to. Yeah, if you could point them out to people, that would be great. Thank you. We are not expecting a fire alarm this evening, so if one does go off, please make your way out in an orderly fashion and follow the green illuminated signs. If you need to use the facilities, the ladies and gents toilets are at the back of this room just as you came in, and if you need the disabled facilities, they're just here on the right. Also, just to mention that the event this evening is being live streamed, so welcome to everybody who is joining us online. Thank you very much for being here. And there will be a recording uploaded to the vote.je website and also the vote.je YouTube channel after this event, if you'd like to pass that on to anyone that you know in the parish. I am sure that you're aware of this, but just to confirm that you can only vote for one of the 5 candidates who have put themselves forward for this role. In alphabetical order, your candidates are Alvin Aaron, Independent; Ina Gardner, Independent; Mark Le Chevalier, also Independent; Rob Ward, Reform Jersey; and David War, Independent. The candidates have agreed how this evening will run because this is very much their decision for the event. So they're each going to deliver a speech for 4 minutes, and then each question that's asked from the floor will be for 1 minute 30 for their answer. So we're going to start with a short speech from each of the candidates. I'll explain what we're going to do in the question time when we get to it, but I think it would be really good to get going. I have been told that I have to be very strict on timings, so I'm hoping not to use it too much, but there is going to be a bell or maybe a hammer if you speak too long this evening. Not on your head, you'll be pleased to know, on the gavel in front of me. So if we could keep to time, I'm happy to give you a signal if you would like me to at around 15 seconds to go. Okay, so we'll aim for that. I've got my stopwatch. Okay, so in the interest of fairness, we will do that and we will kick off. So we will begin with Alvin Aaron. So if you'd like to begin and stand, and if you'd like to make sure that microphone is on. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Hello and good evening to you all. My name is Alvin Aaron, and I'm here this evening to do my best to persuade you lovely people out there to vote me in as your future constable of the parish. I was born in St Helier at my grandparents' home, Pear Tree Cottage, which is opposite the Masonic Temple. Their names were Mr. and Mrs. Kutoj, proper Jersey name. I was a pupil of St Mark's School and St Helier Boys' School, and also a member of the Jersey Sea Cadet Corps. I finished my schooling in Bristol, England, at St George's Grammar School. Having travelled and lived abroad, I returned to my home Jersey in 1990. I have had 5 successful businesses over the years, and I'm a married family man with 2 absolutely terrific daughters. Here are my objectives I want to achieve as constable. I want to see GST taken off of all food products. I want to replace the ferry company that is causing so much havoc on the island. I want to support the small and medium town businesses, that many of them are struggling, as you know. I want to introduce free parking on Saturdays to help these businesses out. Traffic management is chaotic in St Helier, and I'm a motorist, so I know what's going on. I would like to replace the traffic light junctions with filter-in turns to ease the flow of traffic, and also address the crossings especially the one at the bus station by the Pomdor Hotel. In my opinion, it should be turned into a push-button Pelican crossing, and that will be good for the flow of traffic. Policing of the town is very rare. I'm talking about Bobby's on the beat. That might be a bit old-fashioned to some of you, but for the young ladies that I've spoken to, they would feel much more happier and secure walking the streets if we had police officers on the streets in the evening especially. Also, I would like to introduce a town shopper transport buggy system. So this helps shoppers get from one side of the town to the other. It would be something like a tuk-tuk, what you get in Thailand, or something similar to a golf truck, like a golf cart, be electric, and it will transport people from car parks to shops or from one end of town to the other. I think that's a good idea, especially for the elderly, and it would be good for town. On the bigger picture, I just want to let you know that I support Durrell's Jersey Zoo. I set up a page once when they were having financial trouble, and we got over 6,000 people understanding that Jersey Zoo was in trouble financially. That was some years ago, but the response from around the world was terrific. I also want to address the Battle of Flowers that we recently had through the streets of town. I understand that the majority of you really enjoyed that, as I did, and I think we should really go back to that. You know, they want to put it back on the Esplanade. Well, that's fine, but I think the parade through the town made a lot of people really enjoy it. As far as cyclists is concerned, I don't know if it bothers you that we got cyclists going through King Street doing wheelies and speeding. It's only a matter of time before somebody gets injured. And I think we should have a license plate.
Thank you
on all
very
cycles.
much. I will have to stop you there. Thank you very much, Alvin Aaron. Ina Gardner, thank you very much indeed.
Good evening, I'm Ina Gardner, and I'm ready to be your Connétable. St. Helier is a beating heart of Jersey, where people live, work, shop, build businesses and communities. It deserves leadership that understands the precious, its diversity, and its potential. I choose to raise my family in St. Helier. And for 7 years, it has been a privilege to serve as your deputy. Before politics, for 20 years, I worked as a management consultant with international companies such as Zara, Mondelez, Universal Pictures, delivering change, managing budgets, and bringing people together. This experience is important, as Connétable role, as we know, is not just ceremonial. I look through the accounts. The parish manages over 54 million on its balance sheet, 47 million of property portfolio, including care home and nursery. This is major leadership role. And people know me as someone who works hard, listens carefully, sticks with my promises, and gets things done within the budget. I'll give you an example. Some of you probably know Project Grow. Most of St. Helier residents live in flats, not much outdoor space, not many green spaces, and loneliness and isolation grew. My idea was, what can be done? So, field next to the Servile Cemetery came up for sale, and I bridged between parish and community groups. We built Grow, which now attracting thousands of visitors. It's used by 6 town schools and Jersey Employment Trust, 12 volunteers. No £1 of ratepayers was wasted. The parish owned the assets, which is strategic assets for the future, and the community enjoys space, green space for free. And this is how I work. Answering my survey, I had a survey, I welcomed answers. 64% of you told me that the culture, youth spaces, and community life is one of top priorities. 48% like to see green spaces. And also that St. Helier doesn't get a fair share, and it must change. My record, 500,000 brought into the parish rates from the government for neighborhood improvements during the last budget. Montelabe extended, free GPs for children, early intervention services opened, and as the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, my views are very well known, and I scrutinize every pound that's been spent. And it's on record, without flinching. Going forward, every part of St. Helier is different, and every part deserves action. North, Hot Valley green spaces for 700 students and wider community. Hospital contract must be signed, and residents affected by the hospital constructions must be heard and represented. Central, Springfield and Labar parks to be built, dog parks created, cleaner, safer, more accessible public spaces. South, I will work with the government to deliver a flood defense capital project, protecting residents and businesses, and within the budget, Fourth Region must be brought back to the community. For me, across all St. Helier, a long-term capital plan and not year-to-year patching. No one should feel unseen or unheard in this parish. I have experienced the relationship and determination to lead this parish forward. As your Connétable, I will listen, I will act, and I will deliver. And I hope you'll trust me with your vote on the 7th of June. Thank you.
Inna Gardner, thank you very much indeed. It is now over to Marc Le Chevalier. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Marc Le Chevalier. St. Helier is more than where I work. It is where I'm born and where I raise my family and where I'm fully invested in shaping its future. Having received a great number of votes in the previous election, I'm grateful for your support. With that encouragement, I ask for your trust again. As a business owner, I bring practical experience, business skills to serve the parish effectively. I have a proven commitment to our parish, a member of St. Helier Accounts Committee, and a former centeneer. These voluntary roles have given me a valuable insight into how the parish operates, how decisions are made, money is spent, and where improvements are needed. You deserve a constable who is accountable, listens to you, and challenges decisions that are not in the best interest of St. Helier. I'll always put the parish first and provide transparent, dedicated, and inclusive representation. My priorities are your voice to be heard, increase attendance at parish assemblies by online attendance and possible voting so everybody can have their say. Responsible finances. Rates have risen by 16.6% over the last 4 years due to service costs and neighbourhood programmes. Spending needs to be scrutinised and any future increases necessary and justified. Investing and caring for our community provides strong investment in Town Church, St. Ewald's, Westmount Nursery, Honorary Police, protecting services for our older and younger generation rely on. Disabled access and awareness, road enhancements and accessibility for disabled people. Investing in young people, expand apprenticeship opportunities and introduce initiatives that engage and inspire young people. Parking and road provisions. Better parking provisions whilst addressing the conditions of our roads and traffic management. Protecting our environment and green spaces. Endorse resources and protect and preserve our green spaces that are vital to St. Helier. My island views are government spending. Essential services should be prioritised and unnecessary costs avoid such as Gloucester Street bus lane and Broad Street. Cost of living. GST should be removed from essential items such as food and medicines. More support for those struggling to buy food. Education. Schools are running at high deficits and should be properly funded by government, as well as providing the necessary funding for SEND students. Future workforce. Declining birth rates are reshaping our schools. Services and workforce. Jersey must retain self-sufficient and start planning for future generations. It would be a privilege to serve as a constable, your father of the parish, representing you with energy, integrity and commitment. Your vote counts and will help shape the future of St Helier. Thank you.
Mark Le Chevalier, thank you very much. Rob Ward.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here tonight. I'm standing for Constable St Helier because our parish deserves leadership that delivers real, practical change for parishioners. The constable should never be a distant figure. The constable is a steward of our parish, a bridge between community and government, and a champion for the everyday needs of the people who live and work in St Helier. Tonight, I want to begin with 6 clear pledges. First, we must finally deliver the new community school and new parks for St Helier. Millions of pounds of investment are already allocated in the government plan. If we fail to act, we risk losing that funding, and our parish, our children, our community cannot afford that. Our children deserve the best facilities. We must understand that as school numbers fall across the island, due to the density of housing in St Helier is less affected than other parishes. If we do not act now, we face serious challenges in delivery of education for future generations. These buildings will include purpose-built facilities for children with the greatest need, children who are currently being taught in temporary accommodation. They deserve better. I'm proud to have protected this area from further housing development, creating the opportunity for new parks at the old Springfield school site and the Bar Centre. These green spaces will serve families for decades to come and give access to park space across St Helier. Second, I will ensure that parish-owned property is used for the real needs of the community. A wide-ranging property review is already underway. As constable, I will act swiftly and effectively on its outcomes, including finally bringing St Helier House back into meaningful use. Third, dog owners deserve a better deal. I will ring-fence dog licence income so it's spent directly on better facilities and improvements that benefit dog owners and the wider community. This goes hand in hand with my commitment to continuing to improve our parks and gardens. We have a superb, dedicated workforce caring for these spaces. We must support and value their work. Fourth, I will introduce a library of things for St Helier. Not everyone can afford or store bulk or specialist items. A library of things cuts costs for parishioners and reduces waste. A practical, community-minded solution to addressing one small part of the cost of living challenge so many face. And I will support the Repair Cafe to expand its reach and impact. Fifth, I will ensure St Helier businesses receive the support they need. Working with Jersey Business, we will simplify processes, reduce barriers to trading, and help our town centre thrive. St Helier's economy is vital to the whole island, and it must be treated that way. Sixth, I bring experience. I have represented St Helier in the Assembly for 8 years. I know how to navigate government, how to advocate, and how to get things done. St Helier needs a strong voice and a strong team of deputies. We must be more than just present in the Assembly. We must be effective. As constable, I will be a powerful advocate for St Helier. Parish interests are heard clearly and consistently. And vitally, we must work with other parishes. I will stand for the chair of the committee to Connétable, and I will champion the creation of a youth committee, giving young people a real voice and building succession planning into the heart of parish life. I stand here tonight with huge pride in my parish, but with a clear understanding of the work ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob Ward. Thank you. And David Wall.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Warr, and I'm asking for your support to become the next Connétable of St Helier. I've lived in the parish for 20 years and have run my family business, Cooper's, for over 30. St Helier sits at the heart of Jersey, and the role of Connétable is about stewardship, using what we already have wisely, listening carefully, and making decisions that strengthen our parish for future generations. I'm standing because St Helier needs leadership that is practical, collaborative, and focused on results. A thriving local economy is essential to a thriving parish. We must make St Helier an attractive place to do business. When businesses succeed, jobs are created, services improve, and our town becomes more resilient. One of my key priorities is keeping parish rates low as possible, while protecting the services people rely on. Today, less than half of the parish's £20 million income comes from rates. I want to responsibly increase non-rate income so we strengthen parish finances and help protect households and businesses during a cost of living crisis. Cooperation is central to this. We should work more closely with other parishes, sharing services where it makes sense. Refuse collection is an obvious example. St Helier also has the skills capable of delivering gardening and environmental services for other parishes. We must also make better use of parish property. These assets should work harder for parishioners, supporting affordable homes or delivering long-term value through strategic land use. Any proposals must be transparent and properly consulted on. One opportunity worth exploring is working with the ports of Jersey, potentially enabling a hotel at St Helier House whilst the parish takes over La Folie for community use. I want La Folie to be part of our future. Done properly, arrangements like this can strengthen the town whilst protecting parish interests. Partnership must also extend to government by working together, particularly on roads and infrastructure. We can reduce disruption and deliver projects more efficiently. The revitalization of Halkett Street shows what good coordination can achieve. Environment and well-being must sit at the heart of how St Helier develops. As our town becomes denser, the quality of green space matters as much as quality. I strongly support extending Millennium Park through to St Saviour's Road, creating one large connected green space rather than scattered pocket parks. With around 1,000 new residents moving into this area, this is essential infrastructure, not a luxury. Linked to this, I want a parish-wide play strategy. Play is not just for children, it supports movement, confidence, social connection, and lifelong well-being, and helps tackle loneliness, one of the greatest social challenges we face. While expanding green space, we must responsibly explore options for upgrading primary school provision elsewhere. With around 900 fewer births in recent years, pressure on schools has eased. This allows careful evidence-based decisions shaped by proper consultation and attention to traffic and safety. We must also take active travel seriously, safer walking routes, linking homes, parks, schools, shops, and workplaces designed with communities and coordinated across boundaries. We recently welcomed Ganache to York Street, a real asset to the town, yet small issues around signage, pavements, and unloading should have everyday barriers can threaten businesses. They are exactly the problems the parish should help to resolve.
That's all the time we have for. Thank you. Thank you very much, David Waugh. Okay, it is now time for questions from you. The candidates have asked that we prioritise questions from parishioners first this evening, ahead of politicians who live in the parish, and that's ideally for the first 45 minutes, or for as long as those questions come in for. So if you could, when you ask your question, please state your name and also where you live just before you ask your question. We have one microphone to pass around the room, so please be patient. Steve is going to do the honours for us this evening, and we'll get round as quickly as he can. When you've asked your question, can you please pass it back to Steve as quickly as possible and straight away? We're not going to have time for follow-up questions. Once everyone has asked a question, then we can come back to you for a second one. Questions must be brief, so we can get through as many as possible. I may have to ask you to shorten your question if you're not getting to the point. And we ask that you just don't make statements, but do please ask a question. They must not be offensive in any way, and you may be asked to stop talking or to leave the room if that does happen. The other rule is that your questions must be answered by each of the candidates. So therefore, they cannot just be aimed at one of them. They must be relevant to all 5 candidates. I will take one question, as I said, from each of you up until the time of 9 o'clock. And then if we get more time, then I will ask, you can ask a second question. Okay, so hopefully all of that is clear. So let's get going. So if we could have the first question, please. Please state your name, where you live. Thank you very much. This lady over here. Oh, we'll go to that lady first. Sorry, we'll come to you next. Thank you. And do please hold the microphone nice and close so we can hear you. Thank you.
My name's Melina Syrid. I live at Chestnut Farm on St. John's Road. My question is, as Constable of St. Helier, you will represent around 30% of the island's population in the State's Assembly and oversee parish administration. Good government is not about rubber stamping decisions behind closed doors, especially when planning decisions affect housing, infrastructure, and most of all, road safety. My question is simple. What will you do differently to increase transparency around planning applications, particularly when overdevelopment and traffic congestion risks are being ignored or downplayed, and how will you actually deliver it?
Thank you very much for your question. We will start with Alvin Aaron, and you have 1 minute 30.
Hello, yeah, that's an excellent question. And the way I was going to operate as constable is very straightforward. I want to be the voice of all of you. You are the people of the parish, and you are the people that should make the decisions. I will be the voice in government for everybody, and the decision will be made by you simply by voting. I would introduce a voting system, public voting system, and that's how I would operate.
Thank you. Ina Gardner.
Thank you for the question. And I never was afraid to stand up and speak up for St. Helier residents, especially around the planning. Last application was around St. Joseph because I believed it was overdevelopment and it was not enough space left for people and for the community. We're talking about St. Joseph that on the top of the hill, without any playgrounds, without any space for the community to come together. Now we're having another development of St. John, and I was actually the only St. Helier representative that supported residents and submitted my comments openly to the planning. From my perspective, I will continue to represent residents. We need to have a balance. Obviously, developments are important, but it needs to be done rightly, correctly, balancing the community needs via developer needs, via the housing needs, and it needs to work together. So for me, your needs and your views and whatever community needs coming always first.
Thank you. Mark Le Chevalier.
Yeah, I think up and foremost is definitely the parishioners' views first. I would advocate your views. So when it comes out, I would ask for an assembly to get your views and what you would like me as your constable to go back to the States to advocate. I think that would give a fair and transparent view of all parishioners. And then I can be a strong voice for you. Okay.
Thank you. Rob Ward.
Thank you. I think transparency starts with politics. You need to come from a principal position. In the island plan, we and I did not vote for any green spaces to be turned into developments. I don't think we can afford to do that anymore. I did not vote for the development up by Hope Valley School for the very reason that the problems that are arising now. So it's important that initially politicians stand up for what they believe is right. In terms of the planning process, there needs to be greater awareness of how that process works. I think it's a bit of a dark art if I may use that phrase, as to how to access the information, how to actually go through the process of not only making statements about the application, but being consulted. And that's about having transparency in the way that we act within our processes themselves. So I think there was a role for the Constable of St Helier and a role for the parish to enable people to be aware of what's going on. Part of that is to open up parish assemblies, not just to those voting on licences, but voting on, to discuss the actual planning that's going on at the right time. To do that, we need to also move the time of roads committee so it's much more accessible to many more parishioners within the island. I think I've used my time.
Thank you, David Wall.
Thank you for that question, and it's interesting because that comes from what I've described as some parishioners have said to me, the forgotten north of St Helier, and one parishioner even described as saying, I don't feel like I belong here anymore, which is a great tragedy and sums up actually the problem we have in today's politics, and that is that people on the ground are not getting through to their politicians in the way that they would like to. In terms of that particular area, I think there should be a wider plan for North St Helier, because at the moment what we're seeing is piecemeal development. We're seeing a major development in the hospital up there. We're seeing a field, one of the last fields appearing to be developed. And also, as the lady has described there's a huge amount of traffic issues and safety issues in that particular area. So it really concerns me that what we're doing is we're cutting this sort of elephant, as it were, up into little tiny pieces instead of looking at the site as a whole. And I think that's a real problem. In terms of transparency, I totally agree with Deputy Ward here. It is a complex world. Planning is very complicated, lots of rules to go by. One of the areas which really concerns me as far as the roads side and the Roads Committee is concerned, at this moment in time, when you come to a Roads Committee as a parishioner, you have to sit there silently and listen to the thoughts of the people on the committee. What I want to see is that much more opened up so that people who are attending that and whose areas are being critically affected should be able to actively get involved on those Road Committee days.
Thank you very much. We'll take the next question. If you could state your name and where you live, thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Allison Marshall, and I live in North St. Helier. I'm here with about 15 of my neighbors. A lot of people don't realize St. Helier does not stop at the bottom of the hills, Westmount, Old St. John's, and Queens Road, so I do appreciate there's been some conversation about it. We're treated as a commuter and not treated as a community. I'd like to actually, so my question is about the policy of build dense where dense. I believe the Strategic Housing and Regeneration Team, the Bridging Island Plan, the Objective Assessment Housing Plan, is that really still valid, that policy, the approach? And yes, I will ask you to really target that back to the field, but I have real concerns, as do many of my neighbors. Why are we still building dense where it's dense? St. Helier has borne its burden and done what we can for that issue.
Thank you. Ina, if you'd like to begin, thank you.
As St. Helier North deputy, I always advocated for St. Helier North and tried to bring the attention. And as your Connétable, I will not forget St. Helier North. It will be one of the top priorities, because as you said rightly, if you look at the Jersey maps, the St. Helier ends somewhere next to the Inn Hotel. Anything up the hill almost doesn't exist on the map unless you go to the big map. So actually St. Helier doesn't end at the bottom of Westmount or St. John's Road. We have Queen's Road, we have Montcochon, it's going up the hill. And it does, St. Helier North host a diverse group of residents, and it's key commuter area. And it's a large area very densely populated with housing estates. So for me, we really must look at slow down the housing development, and any development come there must be balanced, must address community needs. And this is why my submission to the planning was, I would like to see holistic approach. Community come first. We need community spaces, we need playgrounds, we need areas where even Lapukale Youth Club don't have a space. They go for the first hour and walking around. We do have youth workers. We do have children.
Thank you, Ina. Mark.
Yeah, that's a great question. St Helier in itself has taken most of the burden of building apartments, housing. It needs to be, some of the burden now needs to be taken from St Helier and spread around the island. We need to start thinking about the community around, especially the north, and the whole of St Helier. There was a project, I think, that next to Hope Valley School that is due to be debated, which I would be rejecting because it's too big and it would be unsafe. So I totally understand where you're coming from. It is too dense, and I believe that the rest of the island should be looking to help to take some of the strain off of St Helier building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Le Chevalier. Rob Ward.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the phrase "build dense, wear dense" could be added to with it because it's convenient. St Helier has taken the brunt of housing building for a number of reasons. Partly because there needs to be principles behind the objections. I will say again, I didn't vote for a single field to be developed as a green site because I think there are other options. I did not vote for the field in the Bridging Island plan to be developed as is planned now. And that is what is needed for the Constable of St Helier to do, to make a stand against these things on a principled position. Because there will be another island plan coming. Unless somebody can look back at people's voting records to see how they voted, and you'll see how they will vote into the future. I stopped the development on the Gas Place site, which was going to be houses. I voted against the Play.com site because that could have been a site and we could have had more green space. They did not work because representation of St Helier was not strong enough. Senators removed 3 deputies from St Helier. One of the reasons I'm standing for Constable is we need a very strong voice standing up for St Helier on exactly these issues. We cannot take any more dense building in St Helier. It will not work. We do not have the facilities to do it, and we do not have the infrastructure to support it. And so therefore, I would be very supportive of what you're saying. But you need to look at the principles behind those people who are standing and representing you. And that would what I would urge you to do. Thank you.
Thank you. David Wall.
Thank you, and thank you for that question. A great line, that building dense where dense. I find it quite interesting, the contrast, isn't it? We've got 1,000 more residents going into the central St Helier, and we're looking to extend the town park to St Saviour's Road because there's a demand for green space, yet North St Helier seems to be abandoned to that same concept, which is, as they talk about being forgotten. So where is the consistency in how we plan things out? I would also add that I think it's about pride in our community. One of the things walking around that particular area was about the lack of care to public signage. Simple little things. Montalabé Cemetery, the sign outside there, an 1800 and something sign, just slowly weathering away. There's a stranger's cemetery, a doorway, again, just not maintained. If, as a parish, we don't make our public spaces look more as kempt, as it were, no wonder people get depressed about where they're living and what's going on. So I think it's really important that the parish really does look after and maintain these areas. But in terms of actually, densification, we're talking about densification, I was very disappointed to lose out on the delay on the Philip Lefevre property, which I feel is an acre of land which could have provided more green space in town and townhouses, and sadly that has gone for the price of a 5-bedroom house in St Mary.
Thank you. If you could pass that back down the line. Thank you very much. Alvin Aaron.
Yeah, if I understand the question, it's all to do with the building of these blocks of apartments all over the town. Is that correct? Is that the correct question? Well, all I've got to say is simply, they need to stop building all these blocks where the builders, they'll put 3 apartments in the space of 2, which is and that's not how humans live, right? We don't want our families to live in these spaces, and we need green spaces, we need green parks, and we need more control of these apartment buildings that are going up all over the town. That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, we can take the next question. Let's take one down at the front. The gentleman here in the blue jumper, thank you.
As you probably all know...
Sorry, do you mind just stating your name and where you live? Thank you.
John Baker, Castle Key.
Thank you.
As you probably all know, St Helier, like the other parishes, is basically run by a constable and his 2 procurers who meet once a month and decide the policy for the parish. I'd like to see that extended, as the current constable, Simon Crowcroft, has tried to do with the creation of a municipal council. What do the candidates think about that principle, which reflects what happens in other jurisdictions, e.g. like the Isle of Man, etc.? And if you agree with the principle, how would you create it, and what do you see as the benefits of a municipal council? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Mark Le Chevalier on this question. Thank you.
A great question, John. It would be a great idea to get them all together, because then you can work as a group to decide the best way to go forward. Because then you've got your infrastructure, you've got your collections, you've got yourself as a procureur who knows a lot about the parish. In a way, it's better to work as a group than to work separately, because you can bounce ideas off of each other and get a whole picture instead of just having one idea to go forward. Yeah, that's about it, I think.
Thank you. Rob Ward.
Thank you. Behind the constable and procurers, I have to say there is also a team that works very, very hard to enable the parish to run, and I think we need to recognise those. There's a devil on my shoulder that wants to say, it's nice to see Mr Baker adopting a reformed Jersey policy over a municipal council. I know we can smile at each other over that, because this is something we suggested some time ago, and the reason is simple. We represent nearly 40,000 people in Jersey. The number goes up and down in St Helier alone. It cannot just simply be left to single parish assemblies to make big decisions like the rates with 40 or 50 people. Well done for coming along to those. But a parish council gives that local democratic representation and accountability. It also develops people who want to get interested in the parish, succession planning for the roles that we're standing for here, and succession planning and good decision making within the parish itself. And that is the key. We have the opportunity to be a direct and effective democracy within St Helier alone and set the example for the rest of the island. And I think a municipal council will do exactly that.
David Wall.
I'm going to come along and say the counter to that, because I just see a municipal council as just another layer of red tape, and which does concern me. The problem we have and have had over the last 4 years is that we've been unable for the constable or Connétable to work with his deputies. He's found himself fighting his deputies rather than working constructively together. As if I were the Connétable, I'd want to have all of the deputies, regardless left or right, centre, whichever, sitting around the table. We go through our various manifestos. We try and agree between us what elements of that manifesto we can all agree on, those ones which we accept, which I think actually the Council of Ministers is actually doing at the moment. And those meetings take place once a month. And I think we're perfectly capable as grown-up adults to be able to deliver for the parish of St Helier. Just increasing bureaucracy is an anathema to me, and I think I just think it's the wrong way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Alvin
Yes,
Aaron?
I agree with David on that subject. I think that the constable and all the deputies need to sit around the table once a month, say, and then sort out all the issues and the problems that you may be discussing.
Thank you. Probably my vision a bit different from Reform Jersey, but I do support Council Municipale, and it's in my manifesto, which I call Town Council. St. Helier is the place for a third of the population, and 2/3 of the population work in St. Helier. It needs to reclaim to be capital and deserves to have respect as a capital. When I'm thinking about the council, it's not about the red tape. It's to create, brainstorm policies, vision, ideas that could be brought to the parish assembly, where the parishioners actually voting and saying to us what in, what out, and where the money will be spent. I would like to also create a youth parish assembly, like we have the youth parliament that worked well, and then the town council, we would have representative from the deputy, because we do need deputies, elected representative connected to the parish and working with the parish. We need a residents representation from all diverse groups that are unheard. St. Helier, 60% of the population were not born in Jersey, and we cannot see them at the parish assembly. We need really diverse, everyone who represents group, all abilities, and youth. Because the youth voice, young adults' voice, is important to make the right decision for this parish. So this town council will be strong, coordinated voice, some Helier that will shape decision and affect parish and its future.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take the next question. Gentleman down here at the front. Okay, you can pass it there and then we'll come here next. We'll come to you next. Thank you.
Hi, Daniel from Connétable. Quick and easy question, really. If any of you are offered ministerial roles, would you be saying yes or no? And the same for assistant ministerial roles. Would you be taking them on, or would you just be focusing on the parish? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Very good question. I think the role of constable is too important to be diverted away from it. However, the role of constable needs to be directly involved with government to stand up and have a voice for St. Helier. St. Helier has an important role in the developments that are coming. The development of Fort Regent, the possible movement of Highlands College into town, the development of education and park facilities, and for too long they have not been enabled enough by St. Helier. So the constable needs to be an integral consultee to everything that's going on. But I think a ministerial role is a very difficult one when running a parish the size of St. Helier. And I think you need to commit to one job, and you need to do that job well, and that's exactly what I would intend to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the answer is a no, and for the very reasons Deputy Ward has said there. I think this is such a big role to take on board, leading this significant parish in our island. I think the example I have to say is with Constable Crowcroft as Assistant Minister in Infrastructure, and that was absolutely disastrous from the Ave Par Lido point of view, because he had to back his infrastructure minister who was against what we were trying to do as a community. So you have a constable who is basically not supporting his own community because he's following the infrastructure minister. So that's, for me, tells me an awful lot about why constables should not be involved in ministerial roles. And I'm not just talking about St. Helier here. Included, I would say, is obviously the constable is involved with what they call a regeneration steering group, which oversees a lot of the major developments and has a voice there. And I would like to see that voice in a much more powerful way. But I think one of the most powerful ways is, again, I talk about collaboration. I talk about deputies working with the constable. Bear in mind, that's 11 votes in the assembly. That's a significant body. I think Reform are quite powerful with their 11 votes. St. Helier should use those strategically as well, in my opinion. So no to ministerial, but we can be very effective in lots of other ways. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. The constable position has enough on his plate, and no, he shouldn't be involved in any ministerial position. Looking after you, the general public here of St Helier, is enough to take care of, and working with all the deputies is essential for the smooth running of the parish.
Thank you.
As your Connétable, my primary commitment will be to the parish. I will not take any ministerial position within the government because it's lots to be done and deliver with the parishioners, and Connétable doesn't need to be conflicted. As Connétable, as a consultee, I would be a member of the Regeneration Steering Group, I will be on the Emergency Council, I will be involved in the major decision, but remain independent and working on behalf of my parishioners.
No, I'd be 100% for the parish, no ministerial position. There's too much to do in this parish to even think about doing anything that involves major projects. The size of the parish is too much for one person, let alone. But it's a great role to have, and it can be done very, very well with a great support around you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take the next question. There's a gentleman in a dark blue suit with a tie here at the front who I said would go next. So thank you very much. If you could tell us your name. On this side. Thank you. Tell us your name and where you live. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Toklos. I live in St Helier Central. I just want to ask about what can you do to improve things in the health sector, like the hospital? I know that the hospital is still in development and everything, but what can we do to get some more help in the hospital, especially when it comes to people who have to go off island to get treatment? There is another place where we can actually build behind the hospital, where it's sitting empty, where we can build a cancer unit there for people to if it's possible for those people, to stop people from going over to off island to get treatment, or we bring more specialists on the island instead.
I appreciate that's a big question. I'm just struggling a little bit to put that into a parish context. I think I'm going to come back to probably one of the thoughts around prevention. I'm probably dodging what you're trying to say here, sir. I apologise, because as I say, it's much bigger question than I think for the parish. But I think one of the areas I'm very keen on doing is what we call prevention. Preventing people becoming ill. It's something which I'm very, very keen on, which is a play strategy for St Helier. Sadly, I didn't get to mention this in my speech, but as I've said before, play is not just for children. It supports movement, confidence, social connection, and lifelong well-being, and helps tackle loneliness, one of the greatest social challenges we face. So I would say I want to see much more prevention going on, and I think St Helier can play a part in that.
Thank you.
I would like to see a unit set up in the General Hospital for head injuries. I'm sure you're aware a lot of people do suffer from accidents and they have head injuries and having to be flown to the UK. Is it possible we could have that unit set up in Jersey? And also additional units set up for mental situations where a lot of people have mental disabilities, and I think we could improve healthcare by introducing those units here.
I would divide my answer into two parts. One part is something that the next health minister must present and I will push, as I did during the last 2 terms, we need to understand how health delivered on the island, because we don't have really clear structure and how it's going forward. As the chair of Public Accounts Committee for the last 2 years, I requested again and again to have a workforce strategy. We are building 4 sites, but we don't have workforce strategy and where the staff will come from. Now, as your Connétable, I can do is to make St Helier the healthier place to live. And it will start from kinesthetic parks, like outdoor gyms, where children and young people can exercise if even they don't have enough funds to go to pay to the gym. It's to be out. Also, we need to have hubs, and it was always my community approach, to hubs across St Helier where we will have drop-ins and the residents can pop in and have their health checks. So it has this care and has this preventative stuff in the community. So another thing, I would work with the charity. I worked well with the charity always. And like Cheshire Home, they said, actually, they can do the day at the Limes, because Limes downstairs completely empty. There are lots of opportunities if we all pull together.
Thank you.
I think as a Connétable, it's quite a very difficult one to come across. Sending people off island for treatment is difficult in itself for the families, but it's difficult for the families and for the patients itself. But to have a unit over here, we'd need to attract the people that can, the consultants and the doctors, to actually be able to give you the treatment. I believe that's quite difficult over here because of obviously the cost of living, housing, etc. But it's something that the health minister, I think, would definitely need to look into if it's a viable option. As a constable, I would be trying to help promote that, but we can look at, you know, all sorts of things, healthy living, promoting activities to try and help people through that situation. But it is a difficult one.
Okay, thank you. In the first 2 years of this assembly, I chaired the health panel, so I'm very, very aware of the challenges, the wide-ranging challenges that health face, both across the island and within St Helier itself. A few things that we can do as a parish. One is we need to enable the hospital to be built. We've gone too long now. We have to get on with that, and we have to get on with it quickly. Second, there is a role for the parish in primary health care and in preventative medicine. And I think that is something both in terms of messages and facilities that we can use to enable people to get screening and testing, etc. In terms of a cancer unit in Jersey, I would personally say that the specialist care that is needed for cancer care, we will always have to go somewhere else. I have a personal experience of that, and I'm very grateful that that incredible science, and I have to say, I know as a science teacher I'm a bit biased, but that science is incredible there, and I think we need to be very careful in saying what we can actually do on the island. And finally, I would say that it's the use of our community's facilities that is one of the biggest enablers that we have for healthcare on this island. We have to decide also what happens to the old hospital, whether it is going to remain as it is, whether it's going to be fully refurbished or entirely renewed. And I don't think that decision is genuinely been made yet. So we have to be very strong as a parish in what we say on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that question. I think, Steve, you were heading down this direction earlier and you were passing the mic to someone. So if you'd like to choose who you're passing that to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Andy Harris. I live on St Saviour's Road, St Helier South. So my question is to do with outdoor community spaces. We've got a thriving pétanque community in Jersey, and obviously there are pétanque courts at the Weybridge. There have been occasions in the past where pétanque tournaments have been organised weeks in advance, people coming over to the island to compete, only to find that the tournament has to be cancelled because a marquee has been put up on the pétanque pitches. What would you do as Constable to improve communication between the people organising events in the parish and the communities that are actually using the space that these events are housed at.
Thank you very much. We'll start with you, Alvin Aaron. Are you clear on the question? Are you clear on the question? Because I could ask the gentleman to summarise. Yeah, would you mind just summarising your question just briefly? Thank you.
I want to know what you would do to improve communication between whoever it is that is organising events in the parish and the community groups that are trying to use the open spaces where these events are being put on.
Thank you for that.
I'm not familiar. Sorry, I'm not familiar with what the question you're asking, but surely the parish hall, the constable would be involved in sorting that out with the deputies. We all need to work together on these subjects. That's what I can tell you.
As a community group, I would welcome communication with me. I would like to know all community groups and all charities when, if I'll be elected and as your Connétable come to speak, to tell me what your plans. Also, all events must be planned in advance and advertised, and dates are set. And if there are any clashes, we can address this in advance and to find a solution forward. Because what I found out during the last 2 weeks, we had 3 different events, and people didn't know that they're taking place. When I was a deputy at the previous term, I set what we call community steering group. Worked really, really well. We tried to pull all the activities together and to create a schedule. I'm planning to reinstate it. Communication is the key, and I would welcome exchange as once elections are finished.
Yeah, communication is key to all of this. So it's communication from the community groups like yourself and communication from the parish. The parish communication sometimes can lack, as Innes just alluded on with some of the events. But as if I was to become constable, one of my main things is communication. It needs to be much better because everybody needs to be able to know what they can and cannot do, or go to allow these events to take place. It's got to be a big thing, a communication. Thank you.
I think we need to simplify. Things are too complex too often. There should be one place to go to where everybody knows where you go to book events. We know the pétanque courts are, the clue is in the name, they're pétanque courts. And there are groups that use them all the time. We are also twinned with towns that play pétanque. So it's something that I think we can easily do. When there is miscommunication, that needs to be sorted out at parish level. I think there is enough staff in the parish, enough people there to simplify this process and get it to work. I think if we overcomplicate it, have too many layers, that's when the issues go wrong. And it shouldn't be a power relation between one group and another. There should be a simple, systemic process that you know how to use, everybody knows how to use. Whether you're arranging a large event, a pétanque court, or a picnic, it should be very easy for us to do. It's not beyond our means to do that in the modern technological world. I think it's a very simple solution to these problems. Thank you.
I find it quite funny that no one's actually mentioned the town centre manager, who's here in the town hall, who's supposed to be coordinating a lot of this. Maybe that says something. I think that comes back to, I think, the involvement of the community and encouraging, the concept of the residents' associations around St Helier, and the fact that people at the ground level can get to encourage them to get involved. One example at the moment is People's Park. People's Park is basically shut down to residents for I don't know how many weeks, and right now, which is great economically, but for the residents it's a nightmare. And so we've got to try and find balance in all of these. Sorry. that one good. Yeah, we've got to find balance in where these events take place. But absolutely, I agree with you. They should be coordinated. It's not beyond the wit of man, and there's no reason why the parish hall should not be the coordinating body. But clearly, you know, some of these things, and I think one of the things you were talking about, sir, is on Jersey Development Company land, which is, you know, so they are their own, you know, body, as it were, and do their own thing, and don't necessarily talk to people who play petanque. So there's beholden on other organisations to also arm's length organisations to contact the parish and work together. So much more collaboration. Let's encourage our town centre manager to work that one out, please.
Thank you. Next question. Should we get one over to the other side? If you wouldn't mind going down that side, that would be great. Thank you. If you could tell us your name and where you live. Thank you very much. Just the lady. Was there a lady in the middle?
Thank
there
you.
we are.
Louise Ferns, St Helier Central. While I support the reducing the ambition to reduce carbon emissions, I do wonder if the St Helier residents have been slightly forgotten on parking. We've got parking restrictions up to 10 p.m. with hourly renewals. The Jersey Opera House and the Jersey Arts Centre have suffered because people can't find parking. Charles Street car park is only a replacement of what was in Gas Place, so we haven't increased our parking there. We have free parking on a Sunday, but whilst I appreciate someone has said that they want free parking on a Saturday, residents are actually having a waiting list for residents' parking. So residents are not being thought about for their parking, their guests, and the Opera House and the Arts Centre have also had reduction in their ticket sales. So what can we do about it?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, because parking, it's came like one of the top priorities in the survey as well, and definitely parking is one of the most practical everyday issues that residents are facing. If you, in my manifesto, the leaflet is there, the get parking cron from me, it means that residents cannot park near home, businesses lose customers. It's all St Helier. We have so many different parking for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, until 10. One of the first things that I do, and I always work evidence-backed, I will do the full understanding of the current system, what works in practice, what doesn't work in practice, where it's not fair, and where we can explore different solutions, smarter, flexible decisions, because we need to create a system that will be fair and would work for residents. On top of this, we need extra parking, and we need to find the ways. For example, if we develop a Springfield park, how we creating parking underneath, which will not be forgotten, because we would like to keep greedy, but we need parking as well. And this is one of the things that I will be putting in place going forward. It might take time, it will not be immediate, but it will be there, and I'll be on top of it.
Yeah, parking's a very tricky thing in town. It affects everybody. Not just the residents, but everybody who comes into town, people who want to work in town, and quite rightly, as you said, people who want to come and see things in town. Because we've taken so many parking spaces away from the town area, we're now left in a position where we have the Residents Association parking, which has in itself caused a lot of problems. I know that's difficult for some people to understand, but it does. But going forward, I think we need to look hard with everybody. So getting the residents involved, the businesses involved, and working together with them to try and come up with a plan that suits everybody together. And I think that's probably the best way that we can go around this to suit everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. 1.5 minutes to answer the question on parking. Let's try and power through this, shall we? First of all, we need a comprehensive transport policy. It's not about one individual item here. I do not support building houses where there are no parking spaces. unless residents, and those that we have, residents need to be very clear that there is no parking space. We have to try to remove some of the cars that come into town. To do that as Constable, we need to work across the Comité de Connétable and look for methods to stop those cars coming in. I know they've been looking at a park and ride in St Peter for some time. That could take 50, 100, 150, 200 cars away from St Helier every day. That frees up some spaces. We also need to get people to use alternative methods. The under 18 bus pass has been revolutionary for young people. That's how you change transport culture. You start them young. There are less cars around schools than there were some years ago, and I think that's a very good thing to do. We need to extend that, and we need to offer other methods of transport so other people aren't reliant on their car, and we can use the spaces that are always going to be limited in such a densely populated area as best we can. In terms of the parking charges, that is where, as a parish, we have to work with infrastructure and be a little stronger with them in terms of the money that they're making out of those parking spaces. And as a parish, we need to look at residents' parking that is simplified and perhaps wider, and perhaps a discount rate for residents in other areas of our parking. Thank you. It's 1.5
You were
minutes.
right, you couldn't answer it in a minute 30. Thank you, Rob Ward.
There is absolutely agree there with Deputy Ward, and that's around the bus infrastructure and how we make that more accessible and invest in our bus service. I think that's a really important area, and I think the parish should be absolutely working with our bus service. Just quickly to talk about underground parking, that's a joke. Underground car park, every space is £100,000 to build one car parking space underground. I'm afraid that's just a no-goer. The area which has not been looked at recently is residence parking. I think it's absolutely needs time for review of that and how that operates. I tend to agree that there are ways in which that could be done strategically, reduced rates, etc., making things more affordable, cost of living, remember that. But also the one which I'm passionate about is what I call meanwhile use. I've banged on about meanwhile use for the last, 18 months. We've got Kensington Place all barried off with a few containers in there waiting for some hospital to be built at some point. That's a prime spot for some temporary parking there. We also have the Esplanade under control of Jersey Development Company, which is prime parking space as well for residents. There's all sorts of areas. We just need to be cuter, more clever, and actually demand as St Helier residents and to St Helier Parish that these spaces aren't just wasted and they are used appropriately for a constructive use for us.
I would immediately reinstate parking on the streets. I can actually point out maybe hundreds of parking spaces, street parking will be available. As a motorist, just the other day I got a £100 fine and it was given to me at 6 a.m. in the morning. So you have to look at parking fines, yes. And I don't understand why you can get a ticket at 10 o'clock at night. Some people are working in St Helier, in restaurants and bars, and they can't afford those kind of tickets. So I will walk around St Helier with any of you, and I will point out where street parking can be put back that was taken away, like I said. And also maybe look at introducing a parking zone. So get rid of this 10-minute, 20-minute parking stuff. Start with 1 hour in the center of town, moving outwards. You'll have zones, 1 hour in the middle, 2 hours, 3 hours as the further you get out. I think that will help a lot.
Thank you very much. That's everyone who's asked that question, isn't it? Answered that question. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, we'll take one more question from this side. There's a very keen lady in the middle there with her arm up at the moment. So we'll go to that and then we'll come over to this side and we're going to open the whole floor now to questions for anyone who'd like to ask one. If you'd like to tell us your name and where you live, thank you.
Hi, yeah, my name is Geraldine Ferreira. I live on Green Street. So yes, parking is a very big issue where we are because the police station was built taking spaces from Green Street car park and we only have Snow Hill. My query is we've got two ways of getting, if you can either go through the tunnel or you go along St Saviour's Road. All of these are congested. It's massive in the morning. The queues are all the way back through Georgetown with everyone trying to get out. what can you do, or what would you implement to help the flow of traffic where certain roads have been turned into one-way systems that have only added to the problem?
Yeah, it is very congested in the morning. Certain times of the day, it's very congested. This is where we would need to work with the infrastructure department to try and find out the best solutions to alleviate some of the traffic congestions, even if it means looking at some of the one-way systems. I think we're all well aware of some of them, like Midvale Road got turned into a one-way going into town, which caused major problems going around Springfield. So we'd need to look closely and try and work out the best plan possible to try and alleviate this, but also reduce the congestion and emissions at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. It was Geraldine, was it? Thanks for another minute and a half on parking. I could try and finish off. There's two things here. In terms of the one-ways and the streets, one of the things we have to be brave in the parish is if something is not working, do not continue with it, and be brave enough to take the criticism to say, but you did that. Yes, but it's not working, so we're going to change it. And there are good reasons why we'll change it. We cannot run anything where you're afraid to say something is not working. You need to be open and honest about that. I am going to say one of the things we have to do is reduce the traffic flow into town. And I, of course, am going to say, with anybody who knows me well, if 6 years ago we would have voted for a transport system and a bus service that was either free or much cheaper, we would have changed the culture and the way that we travel into town then. But we didn't. The Assembly did not do that, and does not seem to want to offer genuine alternatives to the car. So, for example, giving a subsidy on electric cars, I think was unnecessary. That should have been subsidising the cost of yearly transport on our public transport system. That changes culture, takes cars off the road and eases that traffic to begin with. And then you have to work through those. And that's why we need a joined up transport system. It's the only way we're going to look at parking, and it's the only way we're going to look at that transport. But we have to admit if something is not working. We have to bravely do that as a collective community, as a parish, and that needs to be led by the Constable. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine, for that question. And I'm sort of very, very aware in South St Helier where that these are big issues. We've got an organisation which is government-owned, which is called Digital Jersey. And I've actually had conversations with the CEO there around what we call traffic modelling. Rather than sort of change the direction of a road or whatever because we feel that might be the most appropriate thing to do, what we need is a holistic approach. We need this holistic approach to how traffic is modelled around the whole of St Helier so that we understand better that stopping the direction of traffic in one area, what that ultimate consequence is on the other side of town. And that can be done very, very cheaply at a very low cost. And it doesn't mean digging roads up or putting dodgy signs up, etc., etc. I absolutely agree with Deputy Ward in that there is this bigger area around the bus service and how we reduce car usage. That's another battle for another day. But I think the reality is here and now. How do we try and resolve this? I think the quick here and now is let's look at traffic modelling digitally and let's see if we can use our roads more effectively. Thank you.
There's a solution in my mind to the traffic problem in St Helier, and if we were to get rid of, well, not get rid of, but replace a lot of the traffic lights with filter-in turns. Filter-in turns work perfectly in Jersey, and the flow of traffic will be a lot easier. And what about maybe even introducing officer to, at the congested time of day, put a traffic police officer at the junction who can control the traffic. Maybe that would help out. Old-fashioned way of doing things, but sometimes they work.
First of all, what we must stop doing is to decide to close one road to one way without looking how does it affect other roads. And this is, for me, important across St. Helier. Green Street, it's one of the examples when we closed one, but we didn't see unintended consequence what happened to others. Recently, one of the residents from the Green Street approached me and asked to show about how children get into school, and actually some of the paths to get to St. Luke's School are not safe. As a St. Helier Connétable, I cannot sell everything myself. I must work with the infrastructure. By the way, about that particular safe route to school, I already got touching with infrastructure, and I hope in 2027 we can develop. When we'll get to this for the 2027, it will start in 26. We need to look holistically on all area. Regarding the buses, public transport is important. It's important that will be frequency and will be cheap, but we not all can get on the buses because buses are not always going around the island. So we must work together with the infrastructure and get things holistically for the area reviewed.
Thank you. Okay, next question. We'll have one over this side. Gentleman here. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Routier from Green Street. A recent report has found that the charities of this island make a considerable contribution to people with disabilities. Would you support a greater contribution from the states to ensure that people with disabilities' lives are maintained?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a really important issue. There's a few things in terms of charities. They need a stable 3-year funding model rather than the year-to-year processes which simply don't work. It's 6 months spent applying for the next funding. It's an insane way to do things, and I think a much more effective way to do things is a 3-year funding model. In terms of disability charities, yes, I think a measure of St. Helier should be how accessible it is for all of our residents. And I think if we measured our society by the level of accessibility, perhaps rather than the size of the yachts in the harbour, we would be a kinder, more caring and a better society. So I think, yes, absolutely, disability charities should be supported. The funding also can make significant changes that last. From making buildings more accessible to making access to information more accessible for people, and that changes lives. So I'm very supportive of that, and I think there are many things that we can do.
Yeah, I think the problem with the charity sector is we talk an awful lot about how important it is, and actually when push comes to shove, we don't actually back it. With hard currency and cash, I think we've just had that big battle with Jersey JAC, who've been sadly woefully underfunded and have had to fight for their corner to get their money. But I'm seeing that way too often. We're seeing Beresford Street Kitchen is also in trouble with funding. We're seeing Meals on Wheels who are having their funding cut. What was actually nice to see a few months back, was that St. Helier Ratepayer actually make a commitment to some charities to make donations. But I think St. Helier, again, I think can do an awful lot more. I'm talking about things like Gas Place showroom, which could be repurposed as a hub for charities. I think it's really important that St. Helier proactively, and we talked about the property portfolio of St. Helier before, I think if we look at that and work with charities, we can provide affordable spaces for charities to operate from. I think it's really important that we genuinely put our money where our mouth is, but it does require coordination. It requires the parish to work with those charities, and again, it's something I really want to encourage massively, because I think the parish of St. Helier can do an awful lot in this area.
Yes, I believe that the majority of you people out there would recommend that the parish looks after the disabled population and the charities. Unfortunately, there's a place called the Butterfly Cafe. I knew the owner there, and their funding let them down slightly. They had to close up shop, but it was a charitable place and it operated well, but financially they were suffering. And I think the parish and the parishioners would all support charitable events and establishments.
My record for support for people with disabilities in a charity is very clear. Bridging Island Plan States adopted 3 of my amendments, which were specifically connecting, making design and accessibility friendly. I was the person that last year proposed aging-friendly infrastructure framework, which was adopted by the states, and it needs to be ready in June, which means wider pavement, better crossing, accessible design, and if it works for all the residents, it works to all. As a chair of the Public Accounts Committee this year, I put very clear recommendation to the government. Apparently it was rejected. I hope new government will pick it up, and if not, I will continue. I will bring a proposition. The charities needs to have 3 years funding to ensure that they're able to deliver, they ensure they're able to secure the staff to deliver work. Cheshire Home, I put an amendment to the budget, which was adopted, and Cheshire Home received extra support which was required to support their residents. For me, as a Connétable, I continue to work with the charity and I ensure that our pavements and our crossings and streets around St. Helier are disabled, wheelchair friendly, and actually available to all people with all abilities.
Yes, I think St. Helier, well, I would advocate with the charities to give you the fund, if we can give you the funding. St. Helier needs to become more inclusive and it needs to be more accessible, not just the streets, the pavements, the roads, the crossings. The businesses need to be on board with this at the same time. Shopping, it needs to be more accessible. I go into too many shops where there's not enough room for a wheelchair to go through. I had a resident come up to me and said, the toggle underneath the crossings don't work. When she contacted the infrastructure department, they said, "Oh no, we checked it the other week; it was working." So all of this needs to be needs to be better through the parish and through all the departments. But yes, to answer your question, I would definitely work with you closely. Thank you.
Can you wait till the next? Can you wait till the next question? Thank you.
All I want to do is just correct. I said JEC, it's Jersey Employment Trust. Sorry, JET. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Can we take a question at the back of the room, please, Steve? Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening. Carly from St. Helier South. Tonight's a great turnout from all the parishioners. Well done. The assemblies are not very well attended by parishioners. It's historically known. How would you encourage parishioners to attend these for the future, as there's very important things that are voted upon?
I think thank you for your question, and I think you've actually hit the nail on the head. It's about political engagement in general. Sadly, an awful lot takes place in the States Assembly, and an awful lot of people are paying absolutely no attention to some huge decisions that are made on a daily basis. So we have a real issue in terms of political engagement, totally agree, which is where I want to go to, and that is about encouraging associations around town. I come back to this grassroots level. We have a really successful Castle Quay Residents Association. We have a really successful After Power Improvement Group. These are places where things are discussed, brought up, real life stuff. that can involve the community. We need more of those around St Helier in all those different areas. And then at that point, in my view, people will then feel like they're part of the solution because they are being heard. I talk about the experts in the room. There are an awful lot of experts in this room, and why are we not tapping into them and getting them to come up with the ideas and solutions that we can then bring forward and put into the Assembly and deliver as policy? Then I think people will get engaged. Then they will start turning out to assemblies. But we've got to be genuine about how our politics is run on this island. Thank you.
It might be an idea that we use different venues around St Helier to attract the younger generations. That's my solution.
First of all, sometime attendance to the assembly, I would say it's practical. The times are not always 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Families, young families, families with children will be able to come and to be here for an hour. So for me, one of the things we need to make it practically accessible, if it's hybrid, if it's online, including possibility to vote online. Another thing, it's about what we are debating at the parish assembly, because sometimes we have only 10 people attending and we have 3 licenses just going through. I think the parish assembly needs to be meaningful, and if we will bring options and policies and something that parishioners would you like to do this, would you like to do this, how would you like to address your transport, we can debate. It's about this. The third one, it's education. I'm knocking on the doors and people say, why would they come to the parish assembly? What does it mean? And when I said, actually, we have 10 people voting, how £1 million spent of your rates? And you have the voice. It's actually the real democracy, which people can tell me as a Connétable and the procurers, we are not agreeing with your suggestion. You will need to spend money different. It's real power. We do need, I hope also youth assembly will be included and will be connected to the parish. We always can review times.
It's a bit loud, isn't it? Very enthusiastic.
So I'd start off with, first of all, by putting it online. And then hopefully be able to get online voting. I believe there may well be a law that we need to amend to be able to do that. Also, we need to, like Ina said, we need to educate people. We need to try and engage with them more through either advertising or on social media, or because when you come into the assemblies, there is it can be a range of 15 to 30 people in here, which it doesn't represent the whole of St Helier. We need much more engagement with the St Helier residents. And I think through advertising and through talking to the residents and really getting their thoughts on this, I think eventually they will come round. And also the timings, like Ina's just said there, some of them aren't at the best times. 7 o'clock on a Wednesday is not great for families. The people go home, cook tea, putting the kids to bed. It's just not viable. So we could alternate days. We could do it on a weekend. There's many different options out there that can really engage with the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the first thing is that people need to know when the assemblies are and the content. Legally, that's covered, but there's legality and there's actually the promotion of St Helier Parish as an assembly. I think the importance of a youth committee starts the next generation involved in parish politics and that direct democracy that I've talked about before. I think also we could do simple things. Why do we not provide a creche for children, for families with children, so they can access our democracy with children there as well? It's not a difficult thing to do. We have facilities. The cost is minimal. I think that's one of the things we could do to actually enable. The other thing is, when there are things to be voted on, we vote on the night, and if there are 12 people here, we get a vote from 12 people. Polling on anything should be at least 1 month in advance. There can be drop boxes for polls. One of the geeky things I do. I've been listening to observe elections around the world and see the way they work. There are many, many ways in which you can enable voters to become engaged in their democracy, because as soon as people start to become engaged, it becomes as important as it is. We must not give our democracy up lightly. It's so nice to see, in my estimate, over 100 people here tonight. Imagine if that was a parish assembly. That would be great, wouldn't it? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Okay, we're going to take a question down here, please, at the front. Gentleman in the blue jumper. Thank you.
Good evening. One of the previous about charities, and I actually run a charity here in St Helier Central, Caritas. And all of you, and indeed the many other politicians or candidates in the room tonight, have used the word cost of living. And it seems to be the real buzz phrase of this election. There's another way of terming that quote, and that's poverty. And poverty is huge here in the island, but specifically in St Helier. And what I haven't seen on any of the literature is actual details of what that poverty looks like. And to put things in perspective, working with the various children's charities here, 24% of the island's children live in relative poverty. And the majority of those, by extrapolation, are here in St Helier. Also, our partner charity beside us at St Thomas's runs a food bank. That food bank was having 195 people attending just before the last election. That number is now over 650. So that puts it in perspective, and those people are here in St Helier. So what I would ask the candidates is, what will you do, what can you do to help those people, aside from the food banks and income support? What is you, as mother or father of the parish, what can you do and what will you do? And I speak specifically for your first 6 months in office, and especially as you go into autumn and winter, where people struggle so badly.
Thank you. Could you just tell us your name?
Patrick Lynch.
Thank you, Patrick.
That's appalling what you've just told us. I wasn't aware of the situation, especially with small children. And every politician, in my opinion, should be ashamed of themselves for not tackling this issue. How can that be possible in such a wealthy island? And I would personally meet with you and all the charitables, individual bosses, and tackle it and have your suggestion of what we can do. I haven't got the faintest idea, to be honest. I'm new to this game, but it hurts me to think, as a father of 2 young daughters, that there's children in here, in Jersey and in St Helier, that are suffering. It shouldn't be happening. You would have 100% support from me. If I was elected, that would be top of the agenda, to meet with you people and resolve it and do whatever needs to be done to look after the children.
Thank you for your question, because I'm aware, and I worked a lot with these families as a deputy. As a constable, I cannot control global prices, but what I can do as a constable is to make everyday life in St Helier more affordable and easier. And it means for me practical support. What is practical support? Make sure that parish helps easy to access and working closely with the charities. We are, as a parish, we do have some funds, and I think we can do more. We do have a return on investment, and as a parishioners, we all can decide through the assembly how this return on investment put into the funds. We have St Helier Youth and Community Trust that can actually do this work. And when the families, sometimes families falling into the gap between government support to what's available, they're left in between. They may be just above the threshold for income support, but it doesn't mean they are not struggling when you have mortgage and 2 kids and lots of bills to pay. This is where Parish can support. Also, the same fund can support children who can access sport, can access different activities that some families are able to pay. For me, it's about practical help, not promises, and we will work together.
In our island, this shouldn't really be happening, but obviously this is happening all over the world. I didn't realise it was that bad in children. I did know that there is a big struggle in the island with food banks, and it's becoming more and more popular for people to use them. I don't really, like I say, I don't really know enough about it, so I would work closely with you. But in this day and age, we really shouldn't be letting this happen. No children should be going without food. No children should be going without clothing. But with the parish, we can work closely with the charities to give these people as much information as possible and show them, point them in the right directions of where to go to. But if I can, I would try and meet with you before this is all over to get a real true understanding of what's going on in the island. Okay.
Thank you. The income distribution survey recognised that the biggest factor in poverty is rental stress and the price of housing. There have been actions with Andy and homes to 80% first-time buyers and the first time ever some form of rent control to limit rent increases. At every single stage of introducing those in the Assembly, there was opposition to those. So the first thing we have to do as a parish is to make clear of our support for those actions. We also can take action to identify those things that are available now. So, for example, Pensioner Plus has increased. There are now 1,300 more pensioners that get access to cheaper dental care, chiropody, and doctor's fees. I'm sure that many pensioners don't recognise that. There's also back to school help, and I know that one of the peaks in using food banks is when children go back to school, and there's that cost, the initial cost of school uniform, that just drives families over the edge because the demographic that's accessing food banks is changing. So the back to school help, I think, will directly address that. One of the other things I think we could do directly as a parish is to provide, for example, warm places for people to go, and help with heating. That also helps with the community building and loneliness. So there are things that we can do directly using the facilities that we have in the parish. That's my 1.5 comment.
Thank the question for the question. It's a really important one, and as you say, how is it possible to be in such a wealthy island and have such an issue? I think my immediate reaction would be, and I've obviously been, as a previous housing minister, I was kind of aware that there was a homelessness strategy to try and work on those issues. So I think if we want to be practical about it, I think the first thing I would want to do is call a summit of those charities who are involved. What I want to do is I'd want to understand where the gaps are. What are the gaps? What are they seeing? I know we're talking about food as a fundamental one. Deputy Ward has talked about the cost of housing, and we're conscious of that. I think the other thing is about, do people actually know, and again, Deputy Ward's referenced this, do people actually know what they are allowed or eligible for? You know, we have Citizens Advice Bureau, where people can go to and attend and check things out. There's obviously also been things such as free school meals to encourage areas. So there is work being done in this area. I just feel that it's maybe not as brought together as it should be. So hence I think the concept of maybe a summit of these appropriate charities might be a way for, that would certainly be a way just to get that ball rolling in a quick way. That would be how I'd approach that. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could take a question from this side, please, Steve. Thank you. We'll go to the lady in the middle.
Hello, I'm Emily and I live in St Helier North. My question is, on behalf of my teenage daughter, who can't vote for you yet, alas, what's the first tangible action that we can expect from you that will benefit our teenage parishioners? and give them an enriching and affordable alternative to hanging out at McDonald's.
Thank you. I would, if possible, that she will be invited to go on my website, specifically for teenage girls. I'll search around what can be done. And one of the things that we can create, it's a swing park where they can charge phone, they can socialize with lots of light. But, and it is on the website because it's something that I found. On top of this, for me, the tangible will be St. Andrew's Park. We do have found the location, and St. Andrew's Park is a great place that can be developed for all different ages and generations. And for me, once we're developing places where the young teenagers and young adults can socialize, it means it needs to be safe, it needs to be accessible, and it needs to be fun. And there's something to do. We need to create more places like Wellbeing Hub. I'm not sure how many people there. They have like a music and mojito, where is alcohol not involved, and people are invited to listen music without extra cost. More social places, and definitely not McDonald's, because mine going there too, and I don't want to go over there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was a very big thing that came up with the youngsters up at the candidate fair. They feel a bit left out. There's not an awful lot for them to do, especially with sports venues being taken away, Fort Regent being taken away, youth clubs being taken away. So yes, that we have a new youth club coming soon, but they want like under 18 venues, like nightclubs to go and hang about with, or separate music venues, like Ina just said, a wellbeing hub where they can go and just sit and relax, and safe space, and have a bit of fun. You could have places where you can set up games, different sort of games where they can go and have a bit of fun as well. St. Helier's got different places that we can open up for them to go and use. And I think this is a very big topic. And I think we, as St. Helier, we can work closely with the under 18s to get what their view, what they want, and really try and put this in action. And hopefully it can make a better social environment for them to be in.
Again, thank you. 90 seconds to solve one of the big issues that we have. First of all, this is why Youth Committee is important, so there are direct voices from young people in our parish that talk about what they actually want. Because of somebody of my age, and obviously I'm only 21, but somebody of my age really doesn't understand at times what it is that is wanted. I will say I was the one who brought the proposition for the youth facility, and now it is eventually being built. That is going to make a significant difference to St. Helier, a purpose-built facility where the youth service can get absolutely directly involved, affordable activities, a free place to go, and a lot to do for all ages. So I think those facilities are so desperately needed, and they're finally being delivered. I was absolutely consistent in supporting those. We need to try and open spaces within St. Helier, and this is about using our properties to make them a simple space for young people to hang out. And we need to have a cultural change. Young people, I talk for many years, I don't see young people as perhaps some see as a threat when they're in groups. They might be a bit louder, but I would say to you, have you seen older people in town sometimes when they're in groups? So before we criticise our young people, we need to look realistically about behaviour. So given those, we must not be fearful of giving those spaces to young people and bringing those communities together, particularly across the age groups. It's healthy for our society, it's healthy for older people, and it's healthier for younger people. That's what building community is about. But it's about spaces as well. Sorry.
Yeah, this, for me, this lack of indoor space, and a couple of my colleagues here have talked about that. You know, we've got Fort Regent shut at the moment, we've got Amazing Maze, Tamber Park, the list is as long as your arm for teenagers. And what do we have? We have a teenage crisis and a CAMS list, which is off the scale. sadly. And that's because we need to provide facilities for healthy facilities for our children. Absolutely for, and I congratulate Deputy Ward on getting the St Helier Youth Centre over the line. I did have reservations because sadly that came at the cost of Liscay Youth Centre, for which £7 million had been budgeted and got pulled. There are decisions have to be made, tough decisions have to be made in these different areas. I come back to where is the play strategy. Deputy Gardner has talked about St Andrews Park, but that's one park. We need a wider play strategy across the whole of St Helier. Then at least we can understand what the need looks like. But I quickly want to say is the need is now. So we have a fort in 3 years' time. We have a St Helier Youth Centre in 3 years' time. We have an empty gas place showroom that could be repurposed in the next 6 months under a meanwhile use term. And why can't we get that up and running, please? Thank you.
Emily, I'm absolutely certain that your daughter would love what I'm going to suggest. Okay? So, on all the teenagers, all the younger generations, but everybody here, the solution is, if I'm elected, we're going to have the biggest, the best New Year's Eve street party ever in Jersey. Okay? We're going to have the harbour lit up. We're going to have a big stage with live music. We'll have pop-up food outlets all around. And we'll have the big screen so we can watch the beginning of New Year's Eve from New Zealand onwards. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've got time for one more question. I'm going to go to the gentleman in the blue jumper just down here at the front. Thank you very much.
Very kind of you.
If you just tell us your name, thank you.
Michael Haynes, St John's Road. The Parish of St Helier is a multi-million-pound business. What experience do you have of running such a business effectively and economically and managing personnel? Thank you.
I don't have experience in running a multi-million-pound business. I do have 2 businesses of my own that I do manage, and effectively they are the same. You need to you look at your responsibilities, you look at your income, you look at your expenditures, and as long as your income is not exceeding your expenditures, you're looking okay. But I can bring the experience that I have as running my own businesses, and also with a team around us. The team in St Helier are fantastic, and it would be an honour to work alongside them and getting their views, and with my experience, we can really work well together.
Thank you. I was a head of department for 15 years before I started this, working with, and I just checked there's nobody in here, working with science teachers who are notoriously the most difficult people to manage on the planet, I believe. I hope they're not in here. And working with technicians. I have been a minister for 2 years with a £204 million budget, most of which people want to take away from you because they simply do not understand the demands of education. So that challenge and that advocacy for budgets is important. And I can say that I have built teams who I trust, get on with their job, don't hide what you're doing, and if you make a mistake, don't hide it. So I have a lot of experience of managing and working with very qualified, experienced and skilled people, getting the best from them and enabling them to do the job that we pay them to do, which is the most important thing, because otherwise why on earth are we employing people? So I believe I have significant experience to take on this role, and I would look forward to doing exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that question. And the obvious answer from my perspective, absolutely, Cooper's is, I've got to be careful how much I disclose, but it is well over £1 million turnover business. Social Security bill every quarter is £20,000. Our ITIS bill every month is £6,000. Our rent is bonkers. We collect GST. I remember a time when, as a business, we only had to worry about collecting Social Security. Now businesses are expected to collect all of these sums and absorb that cost of doing that. So the costs of business in town, for small businesses in town, I absolutely empathize with, and considering we've had this incredible inflationary impact, the challenges of most businesses to remain sustainable and profitable is extraordinary. And I think one of the things that come back to the parish in Helier, I think this is why I so fundamentally believe that the parish has a massive part to play in the sustainability of St Helier. We can, say, for instance, do al fresco free for new businesses. We need to be paying attention to all those new businesses. Right outside here, Ganache, for instance, have no access, disabled access to their new premises. They're struggling to get signage sorted out. They're trying very hard to get unloading bay behind them. These are the little barriers which every single small business will fully understand, and which I fully understand. And I want St Helier to run as smoothly, get everybody pointing in the same direction, because I think we can deliver great things for our community.
Obviously, this is new to me, but I've owned and run successfully 5 businesses in Jersey. I've employed hundreds of people, but I should imagine that the town hall has accountants and have a team of people that look after finances, and you, as a constable, just have to overlook that. That's it. Thank you.
First of all, I'm business owner. Second, my main profession, as I said in my presentation, it's actually train and support managers to manage multi-million pounds companies. It was Zara, Nissan, Renault, Universal Pictures. I was working with them and ensuring that they're managing budget, bringing people together and delivering change as expected. On top of this, I did have very clear record in 2023 as a Minister for Children and Education, with covering the deficit in double hot meal schools, increasing grants for students, and bringing infrastructure from 80% outdated to 40% outdated for the IT. I stayed within the budget, even though that overspend on the care leavers and deficit, the budget of the department wasn't overblown, and I end up with 400 in black. So for me, managing finances and reallocating finances, it's important fiscal discipline and responsibility, and I've done it on the big scales. So I definitely believe that the St Helier Connétable is, as I said before, it's not a ceremonial job, it's a major leadership role, which managing business and actually bringing business to St Helier.
Okay, I'm afraid that does bring us to the end, because it is 4 minutes to 9, and I'm very aware that there are more questions in the room. So I know that the candidates would all be very happy for you to get in touch. The details for them are on the vote.je website, so please do send in your questions, and I know that you will see them out on the streets canvassing. They're going to be knocking on doors, so please do ask them the questions that you would like to. Just before you go, I have got a couple of more things just to mention, if we can just wait one more moment. Manifesto booklets are going to be started to be delivered from the 11th of May. If you applied for a postal vote, remember your ballot papers need to be received by the Gref by 12 midday on Sunday, the 7th of June. Don't forget that you can vote early. If you're going away, if you're going to be on holiday, please get to the pre-poll station in St Paul's Centre. That's in St Helier, near St Paul's Church. That's between the 26th of May and the 1st of June. Election day is Sunday, the 7th of June. Polling stations will be open from 8 a.m. in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. So do check your designated polling station, and please remember to take your photo ID with you. That's really important. You can get all the information that you need on the vote.je website. Well, from all of us tonight, for the candidates, thank you to all of you in the room. What a great turnout. Enjoy your evening. Thank you very much.